tell yourself.
Oh yeah,
at noon?
yeah. It's because at work we have a cold brew on tap, which is super awesome and dangerous.
Yeah, because you just have access to it all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, anytime I even get like an inkling of tiredness,
Yeah.
I just go up to the machine, pull the lever, like put out about that much cold brew, pound it, and then we'll in a few gulps pretty much finish it
Right.
up because it's cold. You can just down it. It's like water.
Damn,
Basically.
that is dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's
so-
like it's on tap. It's like
It's on tap.
Like a keg type of thing.
It is
Damn.
a keg. Yeah.
That's sick.
It's super dope, but
Dangerous.
I was having like maybe 5 or 6 of those a day.
Fuck.
And having coffee in the morning at home, and like drinking coffee throughout the day. So now I
Terrible.
try to like be good about that noon rule, but
Here, try to.
yeah, for sure. All right, is that better?
Yeah,
All right, cool.
yeah.
Yes. So now I mean, obviously I'm failing at it right now, but
Sorry.
it's much better. No, it's fine. I actually feel like I need it right now. I was up late last night working on music, like most nights. So-
Right. Is that a common thing? So you're saying
Yeah.
you for where you have the cold brew on tap, you work with Create.
Yeah,
Right.
I
What
work-
do you do with them?
So Create Music Group, I work. I'm basically on 2 teams. I work in distribution, which is we work with labels to distribute their music into the stores like Spotify, Apple Music, all the Beatport, all that stuff. Specifically, my role there is I pitch for features. So like Beatport banners, Spotify playlists, Apple Music playlists, title. I'm basically the like guy that hits them up, and I let them know like 3 weeks in advance, like, hey, we have these releases coming out. We would love to get these on these playlists, or we'd love a Beatport banner on this release or whatever. So it's super cool in that regard because I get to really know the curators in the back end of
Spotify directly.
Spotify, yeah,
Right.
yeah, and all the stores really, like even like random stores like in Asia that like. That we don't even know about,
No
but
kidding.
that like feature electronic music.
Right.
So yeah, I do that, and then I also work a little bit on the A&R side of things,
Mm-hmm.
which is I look for artists, and YouTube channels, things like that to work with and help grow and so yeah, like my day job is very much in the industry,
Right.
as well.
Yeah, it seems like it. And
Yeah.
so I'm just because I'm not really too familiar
For sure.
with Spotify, but so are there like master playlists that they run on their own? And what you're pitching is, let's say you're representing an artist, you talk to them about you want to have that track be on like their top electronic dance playlist.
So
kind of thing?
Spotify, you have basically 2 types of playlists. Well, actually 3. You got the editorial playlists, which would be like Housework, Techno Bunker. They're like official curated
Okay.
by
By those brands.
Spotify directly.
By Spotify directly,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So we usually pitch for those, and then there are like third-party playlists like Joe Schmo's electronic
Right,
playlist,
right.
and like that's like a different service that pitches to those playlists. I go right for like the big official playlists.
As you would,
Yeah,
I would think.
yeah. And then the third type of playlist, since I don't want to leave people hanging on that, is like the algorithmic playlist, which is basically like Discover Weekly. There are other like playlists that will like if a song's getting traction, it'll like push it into these playlists to kind of like further like expose it to more people.
That's cool.
So it's kind of a very important tool that Spotify has that I think is what's made it so successful.
Do you think a lot of is it mostly like you, let's say as Create, you
Mm-hmm.
represent artists? Do you think those individual artists know that they can reach out to Spotify enough, or are they able to kind of reach out and try to push their own work?
Some people are fortunate enough to know curators on their own at Spotify, but for those that don't, we're kind of that bridge.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, like those relationships are very guarded. Basically, like it's really hard to like find like a Spotify curator and then like get them to actually open your emails and stuff. But if you're going through like what my company does, we're a distributor. We have direct access to those relationships.
Okay, so it's more it's like an email list kind of thing. Everyone's kind of guarded with their own. You don't really want to just give it out to everybody because then everyone's going to kind of have the same access that you would.
Well, yeah. Well, we have our own process that we worked out with all the different stores, like on how they want us to send music to them.
Oh, okay. Nice. So that works out.
Every store has like a different like process.
Preferred.
Like some of them want this Google spreadsheet thing, and those just want an email. So yeah.
Sounds like it's a lot. I mean, the fact that it's integrated with your music. How long have you been working with Create, or what came first?
Well, started working at Create Music Group November of 2018. And yeah, it was like I hadn't really worked in the music industry like in that capacity,
in that
like an
regard.
actual music
Right.
job. I was fortunate enough to apply at the right time, and I knew some people already working there, so I was able to get in fortunately. And the position I'm at now, it kind of just I learned how to pitch music by just like pitching my own music, like tracking down emails from bloggers and stuff like that. And when I mentioned that I was already doing this, like they eventually like gave me the position I'm in now.
Yeah,
basically.
Nice. So it was like real world experience in a job
Right.
that kind of needed something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And what was your introduction to dance music specifically? Because obviously
Right.
since you just worked with Create in 2018, you've been doing music much longer.
Yes.
I would
Yes.
assume.
So let's take it back.
Yeah. let's
Yeah.
take it
Yeah.
back.
So the first time I really started listening to dance music was probably 2005, 2006 or something like that. I was a big fan of like post-punk, big fan of like things like New Order, Depeche Mode, stuff that was already kind of leaning in that direction.
But it was still more rock and roll.
Still more rock, songs,
alternative type.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, I was this edgy teen, kind of like into that weird, like
Oh, the good
80s
days.
music. Yeah. So yeah, and like back when there were, physical record stores, specifically Virgin record stores.
There's no more Virgin Record stores? Did they shut down all of them?
I mean, as far as the ones I knew about that were
They are
here
gone?
are basically,
Oh.
are gone, unfortunately. But yeah, I walked into a Virgin Megastore, the one that I was usually, I'd usually go to, and I went to the New Order section, and I found this single that came out in 2001, and it had remixes on it, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, I love New Order, like I like the single, like I don't know about these remixes, but I'll just buy this, and it was like $20 or
Sure.
something, So I got it, and it had a John Digweed and Nick Muir remix that was like 12 minutes long. And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, what is this? It was this like 2001 progressive house, basically, or where it was almost like trance. But it was, it was like that magic time for progressive house music. And yeah, like that 12-minute. I remember listening to the entire 12 minutes, and it just felt like it wasn't 12 minutes. That was when it piqued my interest.
Yeah, it hit differently. The
Right.
fact that you heard it. So up until then, it was kind of like Depeche Mode stuff that had hints of electronic dance music, but
Right.
not necessarily like house music or John Digweed.
Right. Yeah, it was stuff that was kind of dancey, stuff with synthesizers, basically. I was already kind of gravitating towards that sound. But even other things like Talking Heads and things like that, stuff that was still kind of like, so stuff that had groove and like, I wasn't really as much into like metal stuff,
Got it.
I kind of liked like the dancier types of like rock, basically.
So it sounds like there's like a natural progression for most people through music. I haven't really met too many people that are saying like, oh yeah, I've been listening to dance music since I was a kid. Everybody kind of started with something else,
Right.
Whether it's rock and roll, hip hop. For me,
Right.
it was hip hop and reggae with my uncle and all that stuff.
Oh,
So
for sure.
growing up, and then you kind of hit like a turning point where you kind of start to know what you like and know what you want to listen to,
Right.
kind of thing.
Right, yeah. So for me, that was when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and it was initially like, I mean, at that age, like I was into like pop punk, like the Blink-182s, the NoFX, the stuff, Green Day, stuff like
Classics.
that. Yeah,
Classics.
all great stuff. And then that kind of like, as I spent time in that, I eventually started listening to like, well, what else was going on during the 80s? Like, cool, like, and I started finding like things like Depeche Mode and all
Right.
that stuff. So like it was just like my own curiosity, kind of like barking up that tree. Well, cool, I'm into this like 2000 or 90s pop punk. Like, what did they listen to? All right, cool. They listen to like Black Flag. They listen to like TSOL. They listen to like Dead Kennedys, and I listened to that stuff. And then
I like your music taste. That's
Yeah,
like all the stuff
thank you, man.
grew up with.
Yeah, for
those,
sure.
those early days for me was the same before dance music, before anything. It was kind of, I was listening to what other people liked, and I started to kind of browse and find my own way.
and even then I was nerding out. Like I'd get the like Black Flag like liner notes, and I'd see SST Records, and like like who produced this? Like I was like reading that stuff, and then like I'd find the associated labels and artists from that time. So I was always like very much nerdy in that regard, and I was like one of the only people I knew that was like that. That I'd be that interested in what I'd like study that like I'd buy the CD, open the thing up, and like read everything.
Yeah. Not too many people. I mean, people, they listen to the tracks that they buy, listen to the albums, and then it goes by the wayside. They wait for the next wave. So that sounds like that is, before you even knew it, that was kind of like your integration into being even more heavily involved with dance music than you probably expected when you were listening to John Digweed for the first time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So and then that just progression over a handful of years, like it led me to eventually finding that New Order record. But as far as like the like live aspect of it all, I went to, let's see, was it Coachella 2009?
Okay.
And I think by this time I already went to a handful of raves.
I was gonna say, did you kind of? It seems like everyone that's involved in dance music, you did the early days of raving. I don't know too many people that
absolutely
skip that. I don't think you can.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean,
to really get it.
Right. Exactly. At least to have stuck around this long. Yes. So for me, it was like, I was definitely like caught up in the whole Bloghouse thing. I saw whenever that Vegas festival was in Las Vegas that Daft Punk played at. I didn't catch the LA show, but I went to that Vegas show and I saw Daft Punk live.
Was that the last time they played?
That was the last time they played, I believe.
Fuck.
Yeah. So.
And now it's the ongoing. Oh, they're playing at Coachella the next year. They're playing at Coachella next year.
Yeah,
but they're not.
No, exactly.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
So you went to Daft Punk. Sorry, you saw them.
Yeah.
And it was probably like.
Yeah, and everybody like so many people say that was the like defining moment. Like Skrillex said it, like Mikey Lyons said it. Like a bunch of people say that was like the beginning of electronic music booming in America, basically. And I was there, and after that it was like Bloghouse, basically. Okay. Yeah, so I was deep into the Bloghouse stuff after that.
And that's where are you from originally, or where did you kind of start?
Right. So I'm originally from Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So just down the freeway, 45
with the Focus
minutes.
people and all those dudes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
And the dance music, you kind of integrated. You saw the music, and you decided to. Did you kind of start just figuring out what you wanted to mix and what you wanted to DJ, or did you think to go into producing first?
I didn't even think about that. So I skipped a big piece of history. I used to play music. Well, I played music.
Yeah, that's huge.
Like pretty much around the same time I was getting into things like Blink-182 and that, I picked up the guitar and I started like playing in punk bands, playing in garage bands, and just playing like the stuff that I was listening to. And outside of that, like at school, I was also in band there. So I played saxophone and trombone.
Sick.
I played in jazz bands. I played in marching bands. So like I have like a formal music background.
Right.
Yeah. I was never a great musician. Like I was never like great at guitar or great at saxophone, but like I was able to play all the different instruments, and like I could listen to something and play it back, but I was never like,
proficient enough with everything.
Right.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none.
Right. Which is what a producer is. Which is with production, as long as you have the good ear for it, you could like figure it out and make other things kind of make your music sound better. But
right. You have the benefit of playing the instruments because you hear things differently. The way music processes to you is different than someone who wouldn't play an instrument.
Right. Yeah. So I had that background, but when I was getting into electronic music and like starting to go to shows, starting to go to like those early raves and those early parties, I kind of like pushed my personal like playing music aside, and I was really just busy with school at the time. I was going to college, and any free time I was just trying to go out to shows basically. So I
growing pains.
Right, exactly. And it was kind of more like shaping my taste, even though there was a lot of partying going on and a lot of like stuff that kind of went along with that. But yeah, so that was when like my taste in music started kind of shaping. Like I listened to all different types of stuff. I had like a little bit of a trance phase, a little bit of a drum and bass phase. It was all new. It was
stuff,
all, everything was new and everything was cool and exciting.
Yeah,
basically.
So then how quick did you kind of go through the motions of those different genres before you kind of not only figured out like what you wanted to play, because I think that kind of comes not last, but that comes after the fact.
It definitely does. So during this time, I didn't even think about producing or DJing.
Right.
I didn't even think about working in the industry. I just really was a fan of the music, and so it was the like main taste, or the experiences that kind of shaped my taste basically was definitely seeing Daft Punk in 2007, and then I believe it was New Year's Eve 2008, seeing Sasha and Digweed at Together as One at the Sports Arena.
Right. I think I was there for that one.
You might, yeah.
I think I was.
Yeah,
there
a lot of people around still talk about that show. Like Deadmau5 played like at a side stage. I don't even think he had the helmet on. Lee Coombs played. I forgot who else played. but it was like Ferry Corsten or something, you know. Like,
I was a fan. I was a big fan of Ferry Corsten back in the day.
Yeah, but it was that like Sasha and Digweed stuff,
Yeah.
that like really that just like loopy stuff was really what I was really feeling at that time. And then like, you know, I kind of dabbled in the Blockhouse stuff. I was a fan, but I was like always looking for, you know, the like, well, I like this, but is there something else that's a little bit like this other thing?
So you were incorporating how you were used to look at music, where you were looking at the record, you were reading where it came from, you were doing the research on that, and it seems like you internalized it, and now you're kind of starting to do this, but with a different genre, something that spoke to you a little bit more. Right.
And initially, what I would do is, so like this is back when like we had things like LimeWire. So I was like, I think the like first groups I was really into besides Daft Punk was like the Chemical Brothers and stuff like the Prodigy. Like I was like kind of like doing that, applying that same like obsessiveness of like trying to understand it. And I was like downloading on LimeWire like the entire Crystal Method discography, or the entire Prodigy discography, the entire Chemical Brothers like catalog and stuff. So I was like trying to piece together, or Fatboy Slim. I love Fatboy Slim. And for the same reason, like I just downloaded all their bodies of work and kind of just like worked through it like that. So, so I think pretty quickly I got versed in like in the origins of the music of electronic music, and kind of like how it branched off, and kind of understood it pretty well. Then I think it was 2009, or it could have been 2010. By this time, somebody told me about Focus, actually, like Focus OC, back when it was at the original location at Tapas.
They've been doing it that long?
17 years, I think.
Whoa.
17 years.
Hey, more ups to them. I had no idea.
Yeah, they've never skipped a Tuesday. So
fuck, in 17 years?
Yeah.
Whoa. Damn.
It's more than half my lifetime.
That's exhausting. Hey, more power to you guys, dude.
Yeah.
That's they have that. I mean, Ray Cash is our guy here, never misses a Tuesday, and he's been doing that for years, but
17 years, yes. So shout out Josh Billings, shout out Nonfiction.
Yeah, man, good for you guys, dude. I understand that that goes into
that grind. Yeah, and I was fortunate to see a lot of cool artists early on before they were huge. Like Mark Knight was there one time, like Fed Legrand was there.
Nice.
I saw like a bunch of Dirty Bird people early on. So I think that the first time I went was 2009 actually. Because I remember by 2010, I was already pretty much like into house, basically, house and techno.
Was that the transition, that point where like you were kind of figuring out discographies, you started going to shows, and then you found like the first collective, so to speak? Like you were there and you kind of saw what they were doing. And I'm assuming you went to like a bunch of their shows, and that's kind of how you stumbled into your first pair of CDJs or whatever? Yeah,
it was definitely started with going to Focus and like and experiencing house music and stuff, and seeing like Doc Martin early on, and I mean, even though he'd already been DJing for years, but seeing him early on in like my introduction to house, and kind of seeing that style of mixing, where you play 2 or 3 records over each other for like an extended period of time, and kind of make this new song out of these other 2 songs. So that was the like big appeal for me for house basically. I kind of dabbled in DJing at this time. I started like trying to throw parties too in Orange County. It kind of didn't really work out.
Was that NKTM?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah. We threw a couple of things. Who did we book one time? We booked like D-Unity one time, and another time we booked like Gina Turner, who at the time was married to Layback Luke. We booked TJR early on.
Okay, so before this was 2010-ish.
Yeah.
2009, 2010.
Yeah, it was before he became like EDM TJR. He was like Tech House TJR. So I mean, like it was me and a group of people, and we never made any money, and we ended up like abandoning it eventually. But
story of our lives.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, but it was still important part of like, again, like shaping my taste, and just trying to do something with it, trying to do something with music, basically. Yeah.
I mean, that was it. That seems like that was the big, year where it went from kind of you're hearing house music for the first time, and you're probably one of the few people who early on got introduced to a collective that was doing something consistently, that was starting to you were kind of understanding like how they're doing bookings, and you're actually reaching out to the artists directly, and then you started your own collective.
Right.
Did that kind of go by the way? So yeah, like you were saying, like with the money kind of, you're lucky to break even sort of thing. Did you just think like, let me just kind of put the music out there and just get booked? instead?
No, I still wasn't even really thinking about being a DJ.
Even
on
while
my
you were
own.
going through all that? Okay.
No. I mean, like I booked myself to play maybe one of these parties, but I still wasn't like. It's not even that I wasn't confident in it. I just wasn't at that point where like I wanted to like, where I had like found enough music that I wanted to like, oh, I want to share this with people, basically.
Yeah.
You know, because it was still very much like me exploring. You know, and like, oh, I like this kind of stuff. Let's book a DJ who plays this stuff.
Got it.
You know.
Got it.
Yeah, so this was all in the early 2010s, and yeah, you know, it was a lot of going to shows too, and just kind of seeing what was out there. But I mean, I was also still like I took school like very seriously, and I always had a job outside of school, so I was always like you know like if I wasn't working or studying, I was like trying to get out and go to a show or something. Yeah.
So the work-life balance of having to kind of have the regular day job and keep up with something as demanding as being integrated in the nightlife is something you've been doing for a decade.
Yes.
Yeah. Over a decade.
Over a decade, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that like desire to make the music came early on. Like the entire time I had thought about it, but I was really intimidated by the technology that would be required to actually produce music.
Yeah.
I mean, because again, I had played instruments and stuff, but like to me, making something that would like sound good was just really intimidating. So I didn't even really think about it. But it was always this kind of nagging thing that like, oh man, like I'd hear an idea in my head. I'm like, oh, I wish I can do something with that idea. Or like I'd hear a song and it'd be like, oh, it'd be cool if it went like this instead of like that.
So was it technology like finally caught up with what you were thinking?
Yeah. So what happened was I graduated from Cal State Long Beach in 2012. I got a degree in business, and then I started to work at a mortgage bank that same year, like 6 months later after I graduated. And it seemed like, well, I've arrived at what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to college and get a job, and fortunately that job was a pretty well paying job.
Yeah.
But I was like still just like thinking about music all the time and like wanting to do music. So about 4 or 5 months into that job, I just I got a credit card, and I just bought a new MacBook Pro, bought Ableton, I bought some speakers, I bought an audio interface, and I just like started.
You went for it.
Yeah, I went for it. I was like, well, look, like I have the time now. It's because like now I just have this job.
Right. There's no schooling.
Studying, there's no school, no girlfriend at the time either. So nice. Like I didn't have any.
That's always free time.
Yeah, and I also like during that time I basically stopped going out. Kind of. I don't want to say it was by choice. It was just like I kind of lost interest in it now.
Yeah. Your focus was everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. So it just became me like going to work. After work, like hitting the gym, and then like going home and trying to figure out like how to make music, basically.
Yeah.
And that was 2014, basically.
So what was the learning curve for? I mean, again, you do have the great advantage of being musically trained beforehand. So what was the learning curve going into? I mean, the digital technology and the digital software and platforms that you're using are not like picking up a guitar and playing. There is a disconnect.
Right.
So what was the learning curve, and how long do for someone coming in, was it easy for you to try to figure out the bits and pieces and bars and everything?
Right. So it was quite a steep learning curve. It's because like naturally I don't really consider myself a techie person, so it took focus, like watching a lot of tutorials on I mean, like it's just learning any DAW, whether it's Ableton or Logic or whatever. You have to understand how it works before you could really start like creatively expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And learning what plugins do and what compression is, what saturation is, and learning how to use it properly and when to use it. That takes years. It took me years.
I can imagine.
Now, granted, like the entire time I was doing this, I had a full-time job. I probably would have gotten there faster if like these kids nowadays like are 16 and making dope records. Why? Because they don't have jobs. They just go to school, and instead of playing video games, they spend hours making music.
That's true.
So like that's why they're able to kind of like get good really fast, like early on. You know, it's because
and their parents are taking care of them in some some cases,
yeah.
not all cases, but yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, they have the time to do that. So,
Yeah.
so for me, it was like cool. I have like 2 hours before I need to like pass out and like get up and go to work,
Yeah.
or even less sometimes. Sometimes it was like all I have is 45 minutes, so I'm gonna like watch this tutorial really quick and
Damn.
you know. But I mean, I got to tell you, I was pretty good about trying to do something every day. You know, just
That's strong work ethic. That's work ethic. That's essentially.
Yeah, and I think that I have pretty strong work ethic, and I developed that. Just, I mean, again, it's just wanting to like express myself, wanting to get to the point where I could like take my ideas and play them back, like much less like play them for other people, but just play them back. So I wasn't even really thinking about DJing either. Like I really was just wanting to just focus on like
Producing.
and producing.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. So I like that. I can appreciate when it's again, especially being at that age when you were saying, for example, with the kids that have, you know, instead of playing video games, they decided to do that. You got to a point where you got done with school, you were working, and you're like, cool, that part's locked in.
Right.
You're going to the gym, you don't have the girlfriend, cool, that part's locked in. And
Right.
then now you're finally able to incorporate your sonic, like your brain is pretty much exploding, wanting to just get this shit out,
Right.
kind of thing. So you being able to organize, I think organization is something that a lot of artists nowadays, I don't know if people, I mean, who've been doing it for years or people who are starting to do it, that organization is, okay, I have 45 minutes. I'm going to give myself that time to do it is missed. That step is missed by a lot of people.
It's very easy to just want to chill.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
especially working a job and yeah, I mean, it's tough. But I mean, again, I'm like I mentioned earlier, I had this coffee problem, and I've developed it during this time of my life.
No kidding,
basically.
early on.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
so it was like cool. I got to power through, you know, and I'll just have a cup of coffee and just keep working,
Yeah.
you know. But by no means did my ideas like express themselves anywhere near where I wanted them to be for a while, you know, because again, it was just a couple of hours here, an hour there, 45 minutes there, just kind of every day. And I did that for a year of just trying to teach myself, you know, and watching tutorials and like buying this like tutorial online and everybody giving me different information and, oh, like, here's how you do this properly. Here's how you do this properly. And just trying to like try both. It wasn't until 2015 when I decided that I was going to go to the Icon Collective Music School.
Right.
That's when like there was like another level of commitment there.
Of course.
You know, by this time this was about a year and a half, almost 2 years after I started at that job. At the mortgage bank, and I was fortunate enough to be making really good money, but still just not necessarily happy with just that. Because like I have done the thing where you have like basically almost a 6-figure job, and it's like cool, like this is what everybody wants, but like, you know, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, you're still missing something.
Yeah. So I saved up quite a bit of money, quit that job. I mean, on good terms, you know. I was able to kind of phase
in your
out
best interest. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and I moved to Burbank, and I had already started at Icon Collective for a couple of months, so I moved up. And during that time, I was commuting like from Orange County to Burbank
to go to Icon.
Twice during the week, and then once on weekends or once on Saturdays.
Fuck.
Yeah,
That's like 4 hours in traffic back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Every day that you would go.
Yeah. So I mean, it was only 2 days a week, so it wasn't bad. But fortunately, because I was doing good work at the company, they like let me leave early 2 days a week, and as long as I got all my stuff done. So yeah, they were. I really am grateful for having had that job. And yeah, so, you know, I quit that job, and I basically didn't have a job for 6 months, and I just focused on finishing Icon and trying to, you know, do music every day. And by this time, I had started to kind of integrate into the scene here. So starting to go out to like Clinic Wednesdays and starting to kind of go to sound and starting to kind of like see what the parties were like up here. By this time, I still wasn't DJing though. I was, and I hadn't even like thought about like releasing music. It was just like figure out like, you know, like what the scene's like and just try to get good at making music. Yeah, and then by the time Icon ended, I was down to like my last $1,000, and I had
the timing on that.
Yeah, and I burned through like probably like $30,000
in 6 months.
Well,
just about. I mean, I guess like lifestyle. If you're just doing that specifically, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I had zero income. You know?
Right.
I basically, I basically saved up about that amount of money and like went for it basically. And I was
That's
just
great,
like, I'll figure it out. You know?
Right.
And then lo and behold, somebody who I worked with at that previous company was now at another bank in the South Bay, and I got a job and started working right away. Yeah. So that was 2016. By this time, my music was kind of getting there, still not making what I thought I really wanted to be making, but I was like finishing songs at least. You know,
is that the biggest struggle, trying to like get a release done to where not only you're like happy with it, because I think to a certain extent when you get through that whole process, you're pretty somewhat satisfied with the outcome, but was there still something missing of like
like finding your particular identity as an artist, which I mean, I was able to technically produce a track, but like does it sound like me?
Right.
Whatever that is, like that still takes time, and I think it's a mistake for people to want to like release the first songs they finish, because that's nowhere near what your artistic potential is.
Of course.
And I was reading this interview with Tale of Us saying that like I think last year they did like something ridiculous, like 150 tracks or 200 tracks, and released 6 of them.
Whoa.
So like and now granted that's like kind of borderline like crazy, but I mean, what they're basically saying is like they're really only putting out their best material.
Right. Do you think they have that benefit being at the level that they are? Because and this is just to play devil's advocate, but for someone that's, let's say, putting out music for the first time, and I agree with you that you don't want to necessarily put out the first couple tracks that you make because that's not really your sound. You're kind of starting to figure it out.
Right.
Do you think that could, in some way, also like help them get to their artistic potential?
Definitely. Yeah. There's like I ended up going the other way where I put out those early songs and it led me to where I'm at now, and I just find my early music unlistenable basically. So there's you can go about it both ways basically. I guess there's no one way.
Yeah.
It's just what I guess the like point I was trying to make was like it's important to not rush it.
Okay.
And what really is gonna like set any artist apart is their artistic identity. Mm-hmm. And because we all have access to the same sounds, we all have the same samples, and we all have the same instruments, VSTs or whatever. But like how you use them is what'll set your music apart, and you can only do that by making a lot of music, basically. In your
opinion, now that you've kind of, I mean, your understanding of the music has gone through the natural progression as like an artist and a producer you would expect over the past couple of years.
Right.
And speaking of like artist identity, do you think that that's, again, being now, in your opinion, do you think that that's something that is alive in a lot of artists? Or is it like that's kind of overlooked where people aren't really trying to find their identity? And they're just kind of just putting out music, playing music, DJing, getting gigs because it's fun and they know people. And
Well, I mean, like that's kind of what makes a scene is just a lot of people getting involved and stuff. But I think the artists that stand out take the time to really kind of craft that identity, like crafting the brand, crafting the music and how it's presented and stuff. Like that's super. I mean, and I see it working at Create Music Group. Like the like stuff that does very well, like stuff that streams very well, and all this. It's these brands. It's these artists that have taken the time to make like a truly unique sound.
Do you think that's something that's a little, because now that you understand the scene here in LA a little bit more, because we've been kind of integrated, do you think that it's, I mean, I'm trying to think of the way to like phrase the question without saying like, do you think it's, hold on, let me see. So what would you kind of advise people? Because it sounds like you're kind of starting, or you have understood yourself and you're trying to get yourself to the point where you're setting yourself apart from just any other DJ. So what are those like factors for the people who are kind of starting to come up, people that are listening that are in the scene? Because we know enough people that do DJ and they're trying to figure out, but they don't know what to look for to figure it out. Right.
I mean, I just think that it has to come through time, through like shaping your taste, basically. Now, again, like how you were playing devil's advocate, it is important at some point to just go for it, and start putting yourself out there. And then figuring it. I mean, plenty of big artists have gone through all these like different phases and like almost like different versions of their sound and stuff, and that's definitely okay. But I think to like when you reach the point where you kind of I don't want to say stand above other people because it sounds like an ego thing, but like when you get like really recognized,
Right.
it's when you've done something like really like unique. Even within, I mean, come on, house and tech, all this stuff. It's like, again, there's like, I mean, I don't want to, you know,
Yeah,
piss people off, but
piss
it's
them
like,
off, bro. This is your episode.
But it's just like, you know, like we all use the same drum machines, the
Yeah.
909, then the 808, the 707. It's like we all have the same sounds, you know. But like, how are you gonna it's how you craft the track. Like it's, you know, they're like how you use the sounds. It's what you put over your drums, like whatever your melodic hooks are. If it's a voice, if it's music, like if it's like chords, like whatever that ends up being, like that's what you're like. When people start to like recognize in your music, like you could listen to a Dead Mouse track and know it's Dead Mouse. You can listen to like a Macioplex track and know it's a Macioplex track, you know. And like that's the thing that like, you know, like will set you apart as like you know,
as an individual artist. Yeah. Have you, when you were producing and you started to put your stuff out, you kind of started to get into DJing. Did you kind of put yourself out there, like to kind of live by your own, what you were saying as far as putting yourself out to get booked? You know,
I don't think rarely do I hit people up to actually book me.
Even in the early days.
Early on, it was people. So it started with me like releasing music basically. So early on, I got two of my tracks. My first two tracks that I had signed were to the EDM.com label, Artist Intelligence Agency, which at the time was huge on SoundCloud. Like if you get an upload on that channel, you get like 100,000, you know, streams on SoundCloud. This was 2016, so now, unfortunately, SoundCloud's dead now. But like, or for
fortunately
the most part,
or unfortunately,
probably a bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. But yeah. So you know, and what's funny is I didn't think I was ready to release it, but a guy who I sent my music to knew the A&R there and forwarded my songs, and then like a few minutes later I was on the phone with them and they're like, oh yeah, we want to sign your tracks. So it felt premature, but I mean it ended up working out. So yeah, like that kind of affirmed that okay, maybe I could do this and stuff, and then I started to kind of send my music out and, you know, to other not just labels but other DJs, and people were like downloading and playing my stuff out and stuff, and so like that was like cool, like it was like confirmation that like I should keep going, you know, and it was just through that, like just sending like music to people that like these people started to hit me up, oh, do you want to come play this party, you want to come play that party, so it was completely organic. Like I probably, arguably, I might be further along if I was just like, oh, book me, you know, like, you know, like I probably would, maybe I should have done that. But for me, I kind of wanted to always lead with the music, and all those early bookings, and even up until now, have come from just like releasing music.
Yeah.
And getting it out there and like putting out content around the music, and then like that has led to pretty much all my bookings, even the festival stuff. Like,
what festivals have you played?
So I did EDC 2017, 18, 19.
No kidding.
Yeah, and then Nocturnal this past year.
Damn.
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah,
Nocturnal, EDC, those. Do they kind of try to pigeonhole you into a type of genre where they're booking you and they ask like, hey, we're booking you on this stage with, you know, this and this artist, try to keep it here, or do they just give you artistic freedom?
I mean, like, I've always just played the art cars, and I mean, like, I don't want to sweep that under the rug either.
No,
but
that's
like,
great.
Yeah, I mean, because it's still like you're getting that look and all that, and it's important. But I mean, it's always just been, you know, the art cars are usually a little bit, I don't want to say less curated. I mean, they're definitely curated, but it's not like when you go to Neon Garden, you're going to get Neon Garden, you know, like if you're at EDC, for example. Yeah. But no, I mean, I've always just played like what I kind of like at that moment. I've never had to like, oh, I'm going to play like this type of style or anything like that. Yeah.
I like that you brought up the fact that you're doing the Coachella and the festival bookings, because I wanted to kind of see, you know, what do you think as far as the importance of balancing your bookings with, let's say, the underground, which I think is a very loose term, because, I mean, you're having the biggest artists in the world now playing underground shows, and I'm sorry, if you have 2,000 people at your party, I don't think it's an underground fucking show anymore, but it's not necessarily like a club like Exchange or anything like that. So what do you think that balance is of an artist that's trying to kind of understand their sound but not get pigeonholed into doing a specific sound. So controlling the
right. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I think it's important. I think it's important to be selective with what shows you take. You know, to a degree.
Listen.
Yeah, to a degree. You know, like it's because when you start to play out, people you want like. I mean, thinking as like a live, a DJ live act, you want to. Be seen in a certain light, like, oh, like you played, like this artist plays these types of parties.
Yeah, exactly.
And you could expect this type of sound, and again, early on, like people started hitting me up to like, oh, like come play at the old academy when it was created and play in the side room. And like, I did my first like year or two, I was like just taking almost any gig that I was being offered. And yeah, I played some pretty whack nights, when it's like something that just completely unrelated.
Yeah.
Like so those gigs didn't do anything for me really. Like it was experience like getting out there and playing music. So I mean, I guess there was the value in that, but in terms of like my brand perception, not necessarily. And so like again, like my advice would be that it is important to be selective of like what shows and a DJ takes.
Because ultimately it's representing your brand.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then is there a fine line with someone that say, because I mean, you had the benefit of having a good job while you were going through the motions, through all the DJing. Now you were kind of in the industry.
Right.
So as far as working through the work-life balance and people wanting to kind of understand themselves and maybe play a little bit more of the underground shows because they feel like, I mean, more of their friends are kind of into it, the collectives, the sound that they personally like, but they're getting offers from, whatever club that is not going to really do anything for them, but it's helping to pay. So it's like, when do you think is kind of smart for someone to kind of jump ship from that corporate and try to do music fully,
right?
But then they're kind of compromising.
So thinking about, I guess it just depends, like on the individual vision of the artist. It's because if you want to get to a point where you're like a gigging, touring DJ. You have to get on the radar of a booking agent, which I myself am still not there yet. It's because a booking agent has to see you and be like, I can make $1,000 a pop from this guy, and if this artist is playing for nothing and we're playing for $50 gigs or $100 gigs, like every weekend, then there's no opportunity for them to really make money.
Right.
So and I mean, not granted, like some people do this and actually pop off, but in in most cases, like in order to go from paying or charging $150, $200 a show to like $2,000 a show, $5,000 a show, and getting like flown around and doing all that stuff, like you need an agency behind you, or a booking agency, and like you got to have that brand integrity as well in order to kind of attract that. Yeah, I might just be rambling about it right now.
No. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, but it's such there's such like a marine layer of room for someone to be that not recognized artist before a booking agent.
Right.
And yeah, I'm playing different bookings just so I can get paid, but I want to control my booking. So there's no right answer of how to navigate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's because there are people who have like just played a bunch of shows and have eventually popped off.
Right.
But I think invariably those people also had like strong music, or just a lot of hype, But yeah.
So you think production is kind of like that next? Because there are a lot of DJs that just DJ that I'm not too familiar with their own production, and I think that can really be the difference maker of how you kind of identify yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like having or producing music and well. To be honest, like it's not like every DJ that's out there playing is even like completely involved in producing their stuff start to finish, and there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But like eventually to kind of go to the next stage where you're like an artist that is like being booked in various places, you have to have music or some other type of like visual content to kind of like precede you basically.
Yeah, I mean you're not just gonna do it on just basic merit as it is. Yeah, right. I get that. How was the juggling personal and work? And I just keep bringing that up because I think that's such an important part of our life because we're so integrated with it. Sure. How was it like? Were you able to kind of keep yourself out of getting too involved with the nightlife to where it was affecting your day to day?
So fortunately, after I graduated from college, 2 weeks later, I put alcohol and party favors aside to kind of get focused on what I was gonna do next. And really what that looked like was I'm just not gonna go out. And then invariably, like me not going out, like led to me just not drinking anymore.
No
you
kidding.
know?
So it was a conscious decision to just
Yes.
like kind of cut it for now, and then you just gradually just did not.
And then I just kept it going. You know, it's because I kept on just like I just became so productive. Like I was able to like, again, like talking about that work-life balance. Like I was able to like work a full day at work, and then like work on music until 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and then like sleep less than 7 hours, and like that's basically what I've done the entire time. And if I had mixed up, you know, if I started, you know, like if I were to start drinking right now, like I would then have to, and especially being a little bit older now, like hangovers last like 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, so
and you drink a lot less too for that same fucking ridiculous headache.
Yeah, like 3 beers and like I have a headache for 2 days or something. You know, so that for me definitely gave me a leg up in terms of just my personal, just like.
Did that become a thing? Was that like now you're just gonna on purpose like just be sober? Are you still currently sober? So you don't drink, you don't.
Yep,
right. That stuff. Right. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. This is not a fucking easy place to
do
it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know what's funny is, it like in any industry, man. Like even that banking job, like people were always like faded. So like honestly, like it's not just the music industry. You know.
Yeah.
It's just maybe more out in the open here.
Oh, it's LA, dude. Everything is.
Yeah. So no, but I mean, as far as that work-life balance, I mean, it was like. And it still is. Like I basically go to work, and then I'll give. So now I'm in a relationship. I have a girlfriend. So one day during the week I'll spend with my girlfriend. The other nights I basically will work on music until like 1 or 2 in the morning or so. And then weekends I try to get like a good long all day session. And then like Sundays I try to take off completely for the most part.
From everything and just kind of
from everything, just
smart
chill,
for fuck's sake. I was gonna say, bro, give yourself a day to
exactly. And I learned that. This is in the beginning. I wanted to like I wanted to like work all the time, but you know I was burning myself out. So Sundays I'll chill. I'll like go on hikes. I'll just do family stuff really. But yeah, like I'd say that I'm pretty like rigid about my schedule, and it's allowed me to like finish a lot of music.
Of course. And I think being able to kind of keep yourself in check with like being sober and doing it on purpose helps a lot, because you're not getting lost in the sauce, so to speak.
Big time. And I've seen so many people just fizzle out, you know, just because they get lost in that. And yeah, I mean, it's like nothing against alcohol or party favors in particular. It's just, you know, when that starts to like kind of dominate a person, like it renders you can't operate at your potential, basically. Yeah. So yeah.
Not to, you know, I mean, it is what it is. It sucks. It's hard when we're so active in it and you see it. And it's with people that you see all the time, and it happens all the time, and there's nothing you can really do about it. But I respect the fact that you're able to still maintain that for yourself.
Yeah.
Because the bigger picture, or like the trajectory and all the work you've done for the fucking past decade is not going in vain. Just to really feel like, okay, well, I've done this much, I've gone this far, and this is what's happening in the scene, so I'm gonna fucking jump in on that too.
Right.
Yeah. What's the trajectory that you see for yourself? Like, in your opinion, what do you think is the next chapter of, you know?
Right. Yeah. So right now, I'm actually kind of putting gigs on hold. So like right now, like I have management and stuff, but you know, like last year, I played some pretty good shows. Like I did EDC last year. I did Nocturnal last year. I had a chance to I got flown out to play in Mexico.
Nice.
Like, you know, like stuff started happening. But what I really wanted to focus on this year is dialing in the basically nailing the like sound I'm trying to go for, which I don't even know what that is. It's just like I want to like kind of use that Tale of Us method where I finish a stack of music and then really just curate, like chop down. Okay, I made 10 tracks. Maybe only 3 of them are gonna actually like I'm
represent
gonna put out.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of just in this phase right now where I'm just trying to stack up a lot of music, and it's kind of a long game thing, you know. Like,
of course,
you know, I'm not like
you're not rushing through tracks just to get
right.
them done.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to like just put them out there and have them like not do anything.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's because I've definitely gone through a point where I was putting out quite a track a month, and some of them, I don't want to say they flopped, but you know, like you just put them up and like nothing happens.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, well, what's the point of that? You know, like, you know, like again, it was.
Is it hard to gauge though? To kind of like you don't expect it to flop, but you would kind of put it out and you're just hoping for the best.
Well, when you put out music, if you're spending like 80 hours finishing a song, like there should be a plan.
Some return.
Yeah, a plan. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a return in terms of like, oh, I make money off
of
the song, but like like if you're gonna put that much time into making something, like just uploading it into Beatport and Spotify is like not a release strategy, you know. So and I learned that it's because I saw like some of my stuff did well, and it was because it was marketed properly, and other stuff just like, you know, just the label puts it out and doesn't do anything, and it's like, well, that was like that didn't do anything.
Yeah. So is it you're also at the same time when you're releasing, when you're trying to figure out which tracks you want to release, you also have to kind of see which label you want to be able to like put out your stuff, because that's just as important. It
is important. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like for me personally, what I'm trying to do is finish the stack of music and then like break it down into like like these can fit with this family of labels, these could fit in these family labels, and then these other ones I'll just put out myself, you know. And I fortunately have learned like how to like release music. I don't want to say properly, but like how to, you know, like
to your benefit.
Right, like adequately, like give it the push it needs, so it at least like ends up like DJs play it out and it does okay on Spotify.
Right.
You know, and it gets like some type of a press, some type of blog coverage, or, you know, it's because, yeah, I mean, it's important to not waste a track, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when you're putting the time and you're putting in like something you believe in.
Yeah, it's like 80 hours, 100 hours or something.
Per track on average.
Yeah, something like that.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, well, sometimes they come together pretty quickly, but like when it comes to like going back and like mixing it and trying stuff out and tweaking it all, like it could add up for sure.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I respect it, man. I respect the grind. I like the fact that you're kind of, you have your head on straight, you know, for lack of a better term.
Thank
but
you. Yeah,
it's refreshing to be able to kind of like look behind the veil, and you kind of see, you know, people through social media, you know, people online. Right. You don't really get to kind of know them, even when you're going to their shows or you're listening to their music. You're only kind of getting like a bit of the shit that they have to put in to it, you know.
Right.
So I love that, man. Keep trucking. Where can everyone find you on like social media, on music? What do you have coming out that people can expect soon?
Right. So you can find me on Spotify, Thomas Garcia, Instagram, Thomas Garcia VS, Facebook, Thomas Garcia. I think that one's music. I should probably line them all up so they're all the same.
Yeah.
To talk about branding mistakes. Yeah. Yeah, you know, just find me on Instagram, find me on Spotify, find me on Facebook, and I guess SoundCloud too.
Is that because SoundCloud, it used to be where everyone wanted to put their stuff out, and now it sounds like Spotify and Beatport. Is it because SoundCloud doesn't kind of do much for?
Well, part of it is the listener base is just not there anymore.
No kidding.
Yeah, like you know, like a song that would do 50,000 streams does like 700 streams.
Damn. Because now everyone's focusing on all the other platforms where it's like kind of.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, but it's just more so the like active listeners are just gone.
Damn.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well.
I know.
Fuck them.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
They were in their time and they kind of helped out. But do you think that there's going to be a continual kind of development and integration of new platforms, new ways and new labels and all that stuff?
I hope so. You know, it's because I think ultimately what was SoundCloud's downfall was all the reposting stuff. You know, when a million things are getting reposted all the time, people just tune out. You know, but yeah, I definitely think it's important for new platforms to come out and you know and develop a new audience.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can catch some of your music this year. I loved having you out, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. I'm glad you were able to make it out. If you need anything, follow this man and listen to these words. Listen to the words, the correction, the way to do shit. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Appreciate it. See you guys.